Saturn in Pisces too. And the image here is of the squirrel hiding from hunters. And the message is reasonable caution. Without a high degree of trust and intimacy, such as exists, for example, in tribal communities, there is always a real threat of aggression in the world. The appropriate response to this is neither fear nor blind faith. It is cautions. Sufis say, trust in God, but also tie your camel. There are dangers in life, not only from nature, but from our fellow man. And we have to balance trust with caution. And when risk exceeds potential gain, it is wise to be very cautious. It's a good message for Saturn, isn't it? Saturn is in this particular degree, and Saturn is quite a lot to do with caution. You have these two more social planets, Jupiter and Saturn, that tend to be the same as the people of our own age, of course. And we're trained at school to have a certain attitude that balances trust in life with reasonable caution. We're trained at school rather than at earlier times because of the social planets who bring in messages for an age group rather than the individual or rather than historical imperatives. Saturn in this position is just saying, look, you're in danger. Be sensible about that. Now, the danger may not be seriously life-threatening. It's more likely to be a spoof on the internet, being asked for money for something that doesn't turn up at your door. That's the kind of dangers of today's world. But there are places which are more violent than others, and you hear these horror stories frequently coming out of America about some poor soul who's so stressed that his only way of dealing with that is shooting up innocent people. And it's terrible, and it's real. It's a real danger. There are guns in the world and people who are so disturbed, so very disturbed that they don't know what to do other than to draw attention to themselves. Very often a suicidal attempt to bring attention to heal their pain. This is what's actually going on at the deepest level, that there is such stress in the world today, rather more than ever before, because we know about much more of the world's problems, and the press teaches us so much more about the problems in the world than the solutions. So we're under more stress than we've ever been, and we can't cope. It's really obvious that we're just not coping with the stress of the way life is right now. But we have to cope, and caution is the answer. If you bring light, the light of spiritual awareness, and you bring that to your fears, then you have caution. Caution is what we do with our fears by bringing light to the matter. It might be taught in some circles that fear is wrong. It's just not a spiritual principle. And perhaps certain types of fear are very definitely outside of the realm of normal human behavior, anxiety being the obvious one. No need to be afraid of the future. What we do have to do, though, is understand that we're vulnerable. We're vulnerable beings. We are subject to what's going on, which is out of our control. And a part of our strategy for coping with that is to think clearly about what dangers exist and what we can do to mitigate them, to reduce the risk that we have. And there are certain places where, when I was a young boy, I would go on a Friday night, no problem. I wouldn't go there anymore. It's just dangerous. the world has become a more dangerous place for me now than it was as a boy generally. So I found a safe place to be, somewhere quiet, away from the cities. When things go really wrong, as they are already doing in certain countries and in certain places in the Western world as well, when things go really wrong, one of our devices of caution is to run and hide. This is the squirrel's message, isn't it? The squirrel cannot face a hunter down. It's silly. And I think that that's a wisdom, to know that we can't face down the people with the guns who are a little bit mad and power crazy as well. And we can't actually defeat some of the forces of nature, either the big ones. So what we do is we run, we get out of the way. And that's a legitimate advantage of having fear within our beings. That the human condition is built around the idea that some things we need to be afraid of. And they have to be dealt with cautiously rather than fearfully, shall we say. If you think about what danger you're in and you just do the necessary, if you just take all of the precautions you can, then you don't need to fear the future. Maybe there's a danger in the future that you can't deal with. Okay, no point in worrying about it now. What you have to think about now, without worrying about it, you have to think about it now, is what inevitably is going to happen. So we do know some of these things. We know that there's going to be shortages of food and other materials in the world. Maybe not locally, but for some other people in the world. There will be mass migrations occurring, refugees, there will be the development of war. We know these things are going to happen. How do we know that? Because they always have. That's a part of the certainty of life, at least while we're in this low level of consciousness as a species. It's bound to happen. So if you meet such a danger and you're surprised by it, well, more fool you. That kind of irresponsibility is what will get you killed in that situation. You can't deal with certain things, so you must get out of the way. This is the message of Pisces too. If I look at Marc Jones on this point, he says that a squirrel hiding from hunters. This is a symbol of the conscious conservatism through which man preserves his more enduring values, here emphasized by an uncompromising loyalty to his own self-interest. Implicit in the negative symbolism is a species of high courage in refusing to enter any phase of experience where the risks are out of proportion to the probable rewards. A sense of illimitable self-adequacy is contingent on good judgment as the highest of human potentialities. The key word is caution. When positive, the degree is an intelligent independence of spirit and a consequent real gift for setting the condition for all personal participation in events. So this whole thing of judgment, making good, and our capacity to work things out, our superpower as a species is the way we think. We have, as a species, an incredible intelligence, absolutely unbelievable what we've worked out from applying ourselves logically, checking things out, having the experience to refine our trial and error process. We are such an intelligent species, and yet, despite that, not particularly wise. And that's food for thought, isn't it? Why should we be so foolish in our collective behaviors when we have such a profound reach of intelligence that can create the Big Bang Theory, can understand how it all began? It's an amazing thing that we've done, and yet we're foolish as a species to the point of madness almost, where we've destroyed so much of the ecosystem that we need to fully realize our responsibility of supervisors and guardians of the parts of nature that we've inhabited. So the difference between intelligence and wisdom is good judgment. And you can be a very clever person indeed and make some very silly decisions for want of good judgment. And good judgment tends to come from guidance, experience, and contemplation. Perhaps those three things. Guidance in very short supply from your parents, not very generously delivered by your school teachers. Guidance, you might have to look for spiritual teachers to offer this. Contemplation is an important part of this too. We have to work out the difference between what works for us and what works for this guide. Not all guides are right for us, and some people want to do that with their lives and some people something else. So we have to choose with good judgment what's available to us and whether or not to go for it. This includes taking guidance on the spiritual path that we're on, as well as saving ourselves from danger.